Welcome to Tech Talk with R&E Automated. I'm your host, Jordan Dieterle. Join us as we dive into the world of automation and manufacturing, bringing you expert insights from industrial professionals and business leaders. Whether you're a business owner, engineer, or simply passionate about technology, this podcast is your go-to source for the latest trends and innovations in the field. Welcome, everybody, to Tech Talk with R&E. I'm your host, Jordan Dieterle. Today here I have Charl Greeff with Boysen. He's the CEO, and I used to work with him at Gestamp. How you doing, Charl?
I'm doing great. And you, Jordan, thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to this one. We had some long days and some grinds there for a while. So I'm looking forward to seeing what our listeners can learn from you. I know you had a lot of knowledge when I worked with you there. I want to know, what are the insights that you have as a plant manager and as a CEO of a manufacturing site? I really want to kind of dive deep into, your knowledge of, a manufacturing site, and then also get your background.
Okay, well, let's start with the question. I think the biggest opportunity between a plant manager and a CEO is definitely 3 points. One, the culture. If you go in as a plant manager, yes, you have the opportunity to form the team, but in a lot of instances, you have a team there, you have some establishment in the team, and you've got to change the culture. You've got to change how people perceive things, how people do things. You remember yourself when I got at Gestamp, everybody was working 7 days a week, and everybody was down in the dumps because they were working 7 days a week. And after we changed the mindset, and after we changed some of the cultural things that we did, we got to Volvo to a 4-day work week, and we got to basically a 5.5 work week to the for the BMW guys. So culture is a huge driver, and if people understand what your vision is with your culture, you need to give them tangible goals, not goals that is set, that is pie in the sky stuff, but tangible things. Because when you change a culture, you have to get buy-in. If you don't have buy-in from your people, if you don't have buy-in for the vision that you want to, that they understand that, if they're going to do all this work, there's a reward at the end of the line. It's going to be whatever, less overtime or, less attrition or whatever the goal is. And honestly, that differs in each facility. What is the second thing is, what is the purpose of the business? What are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to do? Yes, we make widgets, or we make door panels, or we make exhaust systems, or whatever. But what is the goal? Why are you there? What are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to help the people, to further the people? Are you trying to change the thinking and give somebody tools to be able to do better for themselves? And you've got to communicate that. You got to communicate that, over and over, and you need to set those goals. Then lastly is, you got to trust your team. You've got to be able to have a team that's going to follow you, that's on the bus with you. Maybe they'll shake their heads a little bit, or they'll say, no, you're a little bit crazy, which is fine. But you got to be able to trust them. You need to be able to trust them that if you make a decision, if you are in a meeting or if you're out on the production floor, you spend a lot of time out there on the production floor. Me, I was out there all the time.
Oh yeah, all the time. Tell me what to do. Which is fine.
You got to have the trust in the people. You cannot have a meeting and agree on something, and then 5 minutes later, this guy is going this direction, the other one is going that direction. The meeting has got to be candid. There's got to be candor. There's got to be, if you're going to disagree with me, that's fine. It's no problem. But you got to do that while we are in the discussion, not when you walk out the office, not when you leave the whiteboard, not when when you start thinking about that. That is not the time. And if you feel different, if the team starts feeling different and they feel like they do not agree or they do not understand, they have to have the openness to come back and say, man, I hear what you're saying, but we need to talk about this a little bit more. You have to be aligned, and you have to do that realignment. You got to keep on doing that realignment. So when you're a plan manager, you need that. And if you're a CEO, you are the driver for the culture change. You are the one that says, we're gonna not run these machines into the ground. We're gonna stop and fix. We're gonna make time for preventive maintenance. We're gonna, that you are the culture driver. And honestly, people want to know from you, what is your expectations? Because 90% of the time, the people are gonna follow your expectations. If it's important for you, it's also gonna be important for them. Now, being a CEO, it's a much bigger spectrum. It's not just the guys on the production floor. You've got all the other departments that you have to get on the same page, get them on the bus, and you need to make sure that everybody is pulling in the same direction. Even your finance department, which is then more important from a CEO point of view because of the P&L. I know we'll talk about that yet in a little bit, but I think that's the differences and that's the influence that you have, being it in a small group or being it in a big group.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely know, the experience of, disagreeing on the, the plant floor, even with you, I was like, no, we can't do it that way. Here's why. And, I was never shy to say, no, this is why, because, and a lot of times it turned into, hey, this is the standard, how we do it here. And it makes it flow this way to make it easier. Right.
Correct.
So I'm 100% in agreement with that. And it's easier just to, hey, let's hash it out right here and figure out why and how can we adapt to make it work.
Right.
It makes everybody feel a lot more comfortable at that, especially, coming from the plant manager, operations manager, a director, is say when you're a floor guy. Obviously I was a contractor, but it didn't matter. Say I'm still there to do a job and I was going to do the best of my ability.
Of course.
So I'm 100% in agreement with you. And that's just, it's just easier. Don't wait and go to the floor and say, I don't want to do this. And say it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's easier just to come right in front.
And then you have people that are very easily influenced, and they are more followers. And when you have negativity on the floor, and this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, and all this kind of stuff, it brings everybody down. I'm not saying everybody's always going to be cheerful and happy and positive, but that's the job of a leader to be able to grab that and explain to them what you're doing and why you're doing it. And if there's a disagreement, hey, let's hash it out right now.
Yeah. No, I agree. I definitely agree. So I guess to say, kind of backing up a little bit, and I know I went ahead because I was just so excited to hear, what your thought process was of, being, the plant manager to a CEO. What is your background? How did you get to becoming, plant manager and a CEO?
Wow. Okay. So that's, I have a little bit of a weird accent, as you can probably hear. So the accent is South African. Been in the US now for 23 years. Studied engineering in South Africa, and then I started working actually in maintenance in South Africa in the maintenance department, and worked.
That's why you and I clicked so well.
Yeah. Well, that's the other good thing, because when I explain things to people, I've been there. I've been in maintenance. I worked with robots. I can program PLCs. I can program HMIs. I understand what's the limitations, to the detriment of some technical people, I guess. But I started in maintenance, moved into a technical engineering position in South Africa, building catalytic converters. That was my forte. And then the company I worked for was a German company. Zoyner Starker was the name. And so what I did is there was huge issues in the US with getting the plant up and running here in the US, the German plant. So unfortunately, like a lot of German companies, they think you can do a copy paste out of Germany. They think you can copy a company or the way that people think, the way people do things. You can plant it here in the US and it's going to work. It doesn't work. So the owner of the company, Mr. Starker, he asked me to coordinate between South Africa, Germany, and the US. So I kind of worked between the three companies, specifically with catalytic converters. And then he asked me if I wanted to come to the US. I love the US. I'm crazy about the US. So yes, I said definitely I can do that. And that's where I started with basically in program management, after engineering program management in the US for catalytic converters. Then I actually stepped back, became a supervisor. I was a supervisor in the plant, and then and some of the other supervisors left, or one guy retired, and I took over that department. And just my scope became bigger and bigger within supervision. Then I became the production manager for the facility. Not a huge facility.
All realms.
Yes, there was probably 150 people in the facility building exhaust systems. So the company I started with in South Africa was building exhaust systems. And then we had a lot of problems with materials. We ran out of materials all the time. We had to expedite air freight materials out of Europe. It was a constant issue. So my plant manager at that point in time, Gary Cooper, he decided, okay, you're going to take over materials as well. And I said, sure, I'll do that. So I was the production manager, materials manager, logistics manager at the same time. And then from there, we transitioned from Zoyner Starker to Arvin Meritor to MCon Technologies in that space of time. And then Forrest took over the company, and I got an offer to go to Eberspecher to start a brand new facility for BMW in Greenville, and I grabbed that, and so I became the plant manager. At 38 years old, I was the plant manager at Eberspecher. Worked for them. Yeah, worked for them for 9.5 years, nearly 10 years. And then I had a non-compete, so I couldn't go really anywhere else. So AJ was nice and gave me an opportunity to be at Gestamp. I started as the production manager, as you know, there at Gestamp in the assembly lines. And then I became the assistant plant director at Gestamp. And then Mr. Geisel, which is the owner of Boysen, reached out to me for this Boysen position, general manager and CEO. So yes, that's in a nutshell what I've done over the last 26 years.
Yeah, it's I guess for the listeners to say overall, you don't always have to start, like a lot of times, younger, generation now, they're like, oh, well, I want to start as a plant manager. Well, if hearing your story, you started, here as a maintenance guy,
right?
I already had a degree, and hey, opportunity presented itself, I'm going to take it. Opportunity presented itself, I'm going to take it, and just kept going. I did the same thing. I started off as an electrician. I took a controls technician job with R&E. Then I went to a controls engineer, then a senior controls engineer. And now I'm, obviously the service account manager. And obviously there's more to come, I say, in the future for me. And I'm looking forward to it because I'm just trying to grow within the company that I'm in.
All right.
So it sounds like you did the same thing, but now it's just kept advancing and furthering your career overall, which is great. And that's what I always want people to hear is like, hey, you don't have to start here because you're not going to know how to do it. You need to learn all these steps first. So
Well, I think
it's always good to hear.
I think what's important for that is, yes, sometimes two things. One is sometimes you got to take a step back to be able to take a step forward. You know, because
Yes.
I was a program manager, and then I became a supervisor, and people thought I lost my mind, and I probably did, but I knew that there had to be a progression program depending on what I wanted to do. So just quickly a story for that. I was in South Africa, and I had a German boss, and I went for my performance review with him, and he asked me. He said, "What is your 2-year plan, and what is your 5-year plan?"
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at this guy like, "You, you've lost your mind. I mean, I'm trying to survive next week. Not what's my 2-year plan, what's my 5-year plan, what's my 10-year plan." So
I've been asked that too.
he said,
I've been asked that too. I'm like, I don't know. What's next week?
he said,
Yeah.
all right, come back in a week, and then you give me your plan. And so, obviously I wanted to have my salary increase, and I went back in a week, and he asked me the same thing, and he said, what's your 2-year plan, your 5-year plan, your 10-year plan? And I still didn't have an answer because I thought I would be able to, BS him out of it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So no, he sent me away, and I had to come back. And then when I actually thought about it, I told him in my 2-year plan, and I won't go through all the points, but I told him in my 2-year plan, I want to be a manager. One of the points, you had to I think you had to have like 5 points for each one. So you have to be a manager. And in my 5-year plan, I said I would like to be, to work for a different company in a different country.
Mm-hmm.
And in my 10-year plan, I said I would like to be a plant manager. And actually, the timing wasn't exactly the same, but it was pretty much on that path, because the reason is, if you come to a crossroad, if you come to a decision to make, do I have to step back? Do I have to go left? Do I have to go right? If you have a draft plan, and your plan can change, obviously, but if you have a draft plan for where you want to go, what you want to do, then you can follow a path that will lead you to that. And it's not for everybody. I know that. Some people want to be a forklift driver all their life, and I applaud them for that. That's awesome. That's amazing. I did that. Or an operator, or a maintenance guy, or whatever. But if you have a path, and if you want to make progress, I would suggest you have a progression plan.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always developing and trying to grow,
Right.
and I mean, yes, they say I've been there. It's really tough to come up with the answers that you want, right then and there.
Yep.
But hey, they say when you get those down, they're like, oh, okay. And you can, especially when you have, somebody, it sounds like you had a manager that kind of knew, hey, I'm going to progress him because they say he's ambitious and wants to do that,
Yeah.
and ambition gets you a lot of places.
Exactly.
I've
Exactly. But
seen
you,
that.
you
It's
got to
like,
have a path. You got to have a plan,
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
important to have that.
yeah, no, I agree. So I wanted to kind of tailor off that, with, getting your planner around, as you, progressed in your career, I mean, becoming CEO, it can be tough, right? They say there's a lot of things, like you said, there's multiple teams that you have to, manage. And I want to know, like, what is some of the toughest decisions that you're making in a manufacturing plant that, because ultimately for me, like I always look at it in my role now, if I'm not doing my job, I have people, here off the sidelines at R&E that are not working. That's tough. That weighs on me. And I'm always like, hey, if I need to make a call on Sunday, that's what I'm going to do. You have the same thing in a manufacturing facility, just in a different light, right? So what are the, the tough decisions that you have to make that, it's harder because they say, obviously being a CEO, you have to make those decisions. And what are those outcomes?
Well, this might sound trivial, but you have to really live safety.
Mm.
Safety, it's a cliche in most companies, because you talk about safety, and you talk about people's safety, and you talk about, what can happen, and keeping your people safe. But, shutting a line down because, I don't know, the light curtain is not working like it's supposed to, or shutting a line down and having to move stuff around to be able to show people that safety is really, really, really important. Um, it can be easy for somebody to brush over safety things, but it only takes one time for something really, really bad to happen. And um, I won't say it's a tough decision. It's sometimes a decision that that you got to make to to not just talk the talk, but also walk the walk, and make sure that your people understand that safety is really your priority. You gotta
Yep.
you gotta not only preach that, but you gotta live that. Last week I had to shut a line down because there was a safety issue on that. I got everybody on board. I got everybody in here. We got the automation engineers. We got everybody to look at it because there was a potential safety risk, and I shut that line down for a day.
Yeah.
So safety is not just a slogan. You have to live that, and I think if people see that, then they buy into that.
Yeah.
I would say that the second thing is quality. If you you can make a lot of parts, but if they're not good, it doesn't help anybody. It drives up your cost. Your P&L goes back. If you don't have a mindset of quality and making sure that you can make good parts, you know yourself. I shut the line down several times with the stupid glue that wouldn't go into the hoods, and that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Jordan, I need your help. Where's the black book?
So
Jordan, get your earplugs in. Oh, yep, I got them. I think that was the first. That's how we met, was safety.
Safety, and
it really was.
Maybe taking a step backwards. I actually got. I don't know if AJ listens to this. You'll get a giggle out of this, because one of the first things I got in trouble with him is because I was addressing safety vigorously, maybe a little bit too vigorously. But to me, when you have a baseline of safety and people understand your earplugs, your safety glasses, you have to have steel toes on. You got to wear your sleeves. You gotta not just preach that. You gotta live it. You gotta understand that. That people know, okay, he's a little different, and he wants me to be safe, and I'm gonna wear my safety stuff. Otherwise, I'm gonna get my butt chewed out. Then that's where you establish it. It's not just about safety. It's also about the rules, and the rules that's in place, and how we're gonna enforce the rules.
Yep. And yes, it was.
So yeah, you know that firsthand.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm gonna give the listeners a little insight of how I met Charl, and it was, I'm standing there with no earplugs. I'm working in a line. I got my safety lock on though. I did make sure of that, but I didn't have earplugs in. They introduced me to Charl for probably his third day, and he instantly yelled at me, and I said, "Who's this guy? I don't even know who he is." And one of the production manager at that time said, "Well, this is the guy with the black book. He has every secret to our plant. Don't make him mad." And I said, I'm not mean, And then finally, Charles called me. "I just want you to be safe." And we sat down. I said, "Okay, I'll wear my earplugs. Just call me when you need me." Well, next thing you know, I'm in every meeting to figure out what's going on, helping out. Next thing you know, Charles and I are talking on the daily, which it turned out to be good, because obviously it led to even more opportunity, and we supported, even throughout the whole process, and especially when you became assistant plant manager. So no, it was good. It was worth it. I definitely agree with you 100% on the safety aspect. I mean, we here at R&E, we send out an email to, we have 400 field service guys all over the world. We send an email out every Monday. That's our toolbox talk to our field service team. It supports them. We basically make sure, hey, you need to open this, read this email. We check the open response rate, and kind of make sure, hey, everybody's on board. Our managers also do the same thing, to try to make sure, hey, safety's number one, especially when you're in somebody else's plant. So it's obviously, say that's key, and I want everybody to go home. Is basically what I'm looking for.
Yeah, and if they come in with 10 fingers and 10 toes, you want them to leave with that and be safe.
Yes.
Not only for the day, but for long term, because like you said with the earplugs, a lot of the what we call the black shirts there at Gestamp, they couldn't hear anything because they were deaf, because they didn't hear they didn't wear the ear protection. And it's sad because, but they were the good old boys, and you have to change that culture. You have to change that mindset, and you just start with safety 101 when you do that.
Yep. Oh yeah, yeah, and it's good to always have that. And I mean, it's almost like when you're trying to develop your craft and you want to stay like relevant in your field. Like, well, one of the things is to, hey, stay relevant and up to date on the safety protocols within the plant. Like that's a a thing that you always need to do. Actually, it's kind of funny to say that kind of brings me into, hey, what did you do like as well for that, like continuing to stay relevant in your field as you moved up the path to CEO? I mean, obviously safety's a big one, but what is some of the other things you did like to continue? Like, did you take some trainings or something to say like as you continue to develop? I mean, obviously,
I always take training. I'm continuously reading and taking training, and looking at different leaders that's been there in the past. We just came through a election, and you can criticize, but you can also learn. You can learn a lot of stuff from that if you change your perspective. There's some people out there like Elon, like Jack Welch in the past. There's a lot of them that I can name that you can learn from. You can take it negative. You can take a lot of stuff negative, but you can also take it in a learning matter. And it's not just about being a bookworm and reading every day or reading a book a week. It's fine, but there's other things you can learn from. Culturally, the culture in the US is ever evolving. It's changing. It's constantly changing. We, if you talk about training and you talk about learning, I want to tell you a quick story. So my son is up in his room and he's on the games and he's playing Minecraft. And I walk up there and he's building this elaborate Minecraft castle, whatever. And there's a generator there, and the generator, I think, makes cows or something like that. So I said, how did you learn how to do that? How did you learn how to build this cow generator? And he said, oh, Dad, it's pretty easy. I said, what did you do? He said, I went onto YouTube and I checked out YouTube for about 2.5, 3 minutes. And it showed me how to build the cow generator, and then I built it, and now the cow generator is working. And I thought to myself, how phenomenal is that?
Knowledge is power.
we old school, you got to sit in the classroom, for 40 minutes after people falling asleep. You got to do this whole slideshow presentation and try to get this for people to understand. And I'm thinking, no, we need to look at it in a different way. We need to look at what is the new generation. How do they learn? They learn from TikTok. They learn from Instagram. They learn from this stuff. So you've got this older generation. They can hardly spell PC. So you gotta take that into consideration. And you got these new guys that fall asleep in 10 minutes when you put them in a classroom. And that's the challenge. That's how we train people. I have a full-time trainer on site that does nothing but training. And we talk about and develop the training constantly, because
Yeah.
Now we have a lot of people from overseas. We have a lot of people from Mexico. We have people, from Cambodia and Vietnam and all this kind of places. And there's challenges with the cultural interface and diversity. And diversity, you know me, diversity. There's strength in diversity. I love diversity.
Yes.
I love different thinking. I love different ideas. If we put our eye blinders on for diversity, we miss a lot of stuff. And that's what makes America so amazing. You cannot come with a German culture or a South African culture or a Mexican culture and try and instill it in the people here. You have to embrace the culture. People in Alabama thinks different than people in Michigan, that thinks different than people in South Carolina,
Yep.
that think different than people in Spartanburg, that thinks different than people in Gaffney,
Yep.
or Union.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Oh yeah.
and for you to be successful, you have to embrace that, and you got to understand it, and you have to spend the time with the people to understand what makes them tick and how they learn. So yeah, that was a broad range, Jordan. Sorry for that.
No, that's
I'm trying to get.
I agree with that. It's a diversity is key, and I'm all for that. I think it's great, and I mean I've learned a ton. The one person that I always say I've learned more from than anybody else is good old Didi. A lot of people don't know Didi, but Didi is a great guy,
Right.
and I'm going to send him this one to say, hey, I did learn a lot from you, but you were stubborn and you were a stubborn guy, and he's a good guy. But I did learn so much from him, and I'm not gonna, argue. I've seen a lot. So,
Right.
But hey, I think I want to kind of wrap it up here. So, what's a good way for everybody to connect with you? Obviously this is Tech Talk with R&E Automated. I'm the host for Jordan Dieterle. So tell them how to connect with you, Charles.
I think the best thing is Charl Greeff, Charl Greeff, Greeff on LinkedIn. If you want to connect there, that would be great. We can, I can send you some numbers, some telephone numbers, or whatever we can do. But I think that's probably the easiest way to do it.
Yep.
And then
that's where a lot of people are.
Yeah.
Say, okay, connect with me on LinkedIn and, shoot me a message. Let me know that, hey, you watched it on, Tech Talk, or they say any way, to say I can support and help. They say that's what I'm looking for.
I've got a passion to help people. You know that to develop people, and I love to do that. So, Jordan, thank you for the opportunity, man. This was amazing. I really appreciate that. Thank you for your time and taking the time and inviting me. That's great.
Yeah. No, it was fun. It's always good to catch up when you're sitting in front of, you dedicate that time. It's always good. And I always tell people that too. I'm like, hey, it's always good. You never know. And even though you're on video, you say it doesn't really matter. Because, I mess up all the time. So I don't really care. I say it's just a good time to have, a good conversation. So.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, I already say, well, hey, I appreciate it. Hey, to the listeners, this is Tech Talk with R&E. I'm your host, Jordan Dieterle. Please connect and subscribe. Looking forward to hearing back some feedback, and we will talk to you soon. See ya.